Long before the renowned classic Maya cities like Tikal or Palenque reached their iconic peaks, a civilization of astonishing scale and sophistication already dominated the Mesoamerican landscape. Welcome back to the Earthen Dawn. In the heart of the Petén Basin, between roughly 400 BCE and 250 CE, colossal urban centers like El Mirador flourished, featuring architectural complexes of truly monumental proportions. Consider El Tigre, a single pyramid rising 18 stories into the jungle canopy, or the La Donta complex, a sprawling, engineered landscape whose sheer volume often exceeded anything constructed in the later classic period. This was a golden age of urban planning, monumental architecture, and complex social organization, one that began centuries before its popular recognition. How did such immense power and ingenuity coalesce so early in the Maya lowlands? What were the driving forces behind this profound societal bloom, and what ultimately transpired to reshape its trajectory? Join us as we explore the foundational era of the late Preclassic Maya, unveiling the surprising genesis of a civilization. The trajectory towards monumental complexity was meticulously forged during the Middle Preclassic period, roughly 1000 to 400 BCE. This era saw profound transformation from early sedentary village life into increasingly complex societies, laying the indispensable groundwork for the late Preclassic's urban explosion. Central to this shift was an agricultural revolution. Sustained population growth, particularly in resource-rich areas like the Petén Basin, was fueled by sophisticated farming techniques. Farmers moved beyond basic swidden practices, adopting permanent field systems, rudimentary terracing, and efficient water management, including early canal systems evidenced at sites like Cerros. This intensification generated a crucial food surplus, essential for population density and the development of non-agricultural specialists. With a stable food supply and a growing populace, social structures began to differentiate. The need to organize labor for advanced agricultural systems, combined with increasing population concentration, fostered emergent leadership. Archaeological evidence reflects this nascent hierarchy. Larger, more elaborate residential structures alongside simpler commoner dwellings, richer burials containing exotic goods, and distinct artifact assemblages denoting differential status. This surplus also allowed individuals to pursue specialized crafts, from pottery and weaving to intricate stoneworking, spurring the development of early long-distance trade networks. Obsidian, vital for sharp tools, flowed from highland Guatemala, while precious jade and marine shells traversed the lowlands, indicative of expanding regional interaction and economic sophistication. Crucially, this period also saw the appearance of early public architecture and ceremonial centers. At sites like Nakbe and El Mirador, the earliest astronomical E-group complexes, foundational to Maya cosmology and timekeeping, date to the Middle Preclassic. These early constructions signal organized labor and the emergence of proto-elite groups, capable of mobilizing significant communal effort. Interactions with the Olmec civilization of the Gulf Coast also played a role in this formative period. Shared iconographic elements and the development of early writing systems, seen in potential precursors like the La Mojara Stela I or the Cascajal block, indicate a broader intellectual ferment across Mesoamerica. Thus, the Middle Preclassic meticulously prepared the essential ingredients: dense populations, organized labor, social stratification, and a unifying ideology for the late Preclassic bloom. From the groundwork laid in the Middle Preclassic, the late Preclassic erupted into an architectural revolution, literally reshaping the landscape. Cities like El Mirador, Nakbe, Sival, San Bartolo, Cerros, and Caminaljuyu emerged not merely as settlements, but as true urban centers, testaments to an unprecedented scale of human organization and ambition. El Mirador, a colossal site, dwarfs many later classic cities. Here, structures were engineered on a monumental scale. The La Danta complex, for instance, rises over 72 meters. This vast platform supports multiple smaller structures, all forming a singular, overwhelming statement. Its estimated volume of 2.8 million cubic meters of construction material, comparable to the Great Pyramid of Giza. This required unimaginable quantities of limestone and plaster, demanding not only tens of thousands of individuals over generations, but also sophisticated quarrying, transport, and construction management. The El Tigre Pyramid, reaching an estimated 18 stories, and the intricate triadic arrangements where a central pyramid is flanked by two smaller ones, speak volumes of a highly stratified society capable of mobilizing vast workforces. What drove such monumental undertakings? The answer lies in the profound interweaving of function, power, and belief. These cities were meticulously planned. Vast causeways, or sakbiub, paved with white plaster, radiated outwards, connecting major architectural groups, and remarkably, linking entire urban centers across the Mirador Basin. These arteries facilitated trade and communication, while their imposing scale underscored the reach and order of the ruling elite. Expansive plazas served as public arenas for mass rituals, and sophisticated reservoirs collected and distributed water, critical for sustaining dense urban populations. Beyond utility, these structures were physical manifestations of divine authority. Temples were conceived as sacred mountains, connecting the earthly realm with the celestial. E-group complexes, found across many late Preclassic sites, meticulously aligned with solstices and equinoxes, demonstrating an advanced understanding of astronomy. These were not just observatories, but stages for sacred dramas where the Aja, or Divine Lord, performed rituals to maintain cosmic balance, watched by thousands. The surfaces of these monumental forms were then brought to life with vibrant, polychromatic stucco. At San Bartolo, murals depict the heroic feats of the maize god and the hero twins, alongside scenes of royal succession and ritual, foundational narratives central to Maya cosmology. These are not mere decorations. They are foundational texts rendered in plaster, legitimizing the ruler's lineage by connecting him directly to mythical origins. Similarly, massive stucco masks at Cerros, framing temple doorways, gaze out with powerful, mythological visages, transforming buildings into living, sacred entities. These visual statements broadcast identity and power on an epic scale, creating a vocabulary of authority. The Aja thus emerged as the central figure, a sacred intermediary between the human realm and the cosmos, solidifying power through this complex tapestry of religious ideology, elaborate ritual, and nascent writing. Rulers actively employed this public art as a powerful tool of legitimization. Complementing this visual rhetoric was the emergence of the Maya writing system and sophisticated calendrical calculations. While still evolving, early long count dates, seen on artifacts like Stela II at Chiapa de Corzo or Tres Zapotes Stela C, mark the advent of a system capable of precisely recording dynastic histories and astronomical events. This ability to chart deep time and cosmic cycles further elevated the Ajah, presenting them as custodians of not just terrestrial affairs, but of cosmic order itself. Early glyphs, appearing on stelae and pottery, began to narrate the divine heritage and accomplishments of specific rulers, inscribing their legitimacy into the historical and spiritual record. Ritual practices were the living embodiment of this divine connection. Elaborate public ceremonies, often accompanied by feasting and the opulent offering of precious materials like jade, shell, and exotic feathers, were designed as immersive spectacles. These performances reinforced the ruler's intimate communion with the supernatural, demonstrating their capacity to ensure agricultural fertility, secure military victory, and maintain cosmic balance. Through these shared experiences, a common cosmology, replete with a three-tiered cosmos and the sacred world tree, was instilled, binding disparate communities and social strata under a unified belief system. This intricate web of art, ritual, and early writing transformed political power into sacred authority, structuring late pre-classic society with the divine Ajah at its apex. Within this burgeoning urban landscape, a few sites emerged with unprecedented influence, fundamentally altering the region's political and economic dynamics. At the apex stood El Mirador, a colossal settlement whose estimated population of 100,000 to 250,000 people dominated the Mirador Basin. Its extensive network of Sac-Biob elevated causeways, spanning tens of kilometers, interwove its sprawling urban fabric and linked it directly to surrounding centers like Nakbe, Wakna, Tintal, and Sulnal. This physical integration suggests a hierarchical relationship, with these secondary centers likely operating within El Mirador's sphere of influence, contributing labor and resources. El Mirador was not alone. Further south in the Petén, centers like Civil and Homel demonstrated significant late pre-classic growth, laying foundations for future classic powerhouses like Tikal and Uaxactun. In the highlands, Kaminaljuyu presented a distinct but equally powerful development. Its impressive earthen mounds reflected a different tradition, yet its strategic location controlled vital obsidian trade routes that fed the entire Maya lowlands. Along the eastern coast, Cerros in Belize thrived as a prominent coastal center, integrating maritime trade and distinguishing itself with elaborate early stucco masks. Archaeological evidence, from shared iconography and stylistic similarities to the widespread distribution of obsidian and jade, testifies to a complex web of economic and cultural exchange. This suggests a political structure of powerful regional capitals exerting dominance through alliances, shared ideology, and controlled trade networks, rather than direct military conquest. The extensive causeway system, in particular, speaks to a purposeful integration and perhaps centralized authority over the Mirador Basin. However, distinct architectural styles outside this immediate basin suggest a degree of autonomy for other centers. The drivers of power were clear: geographical positioning, access to fertile agricultural lands, and control over crucial trade routes for commodities like obsidian and salt. While large-scale warfare, so characteristic of the Classic period, appears less prevalent, some sites, including Becan and El Mirador itself, did exhibit early defensive features. This hints at growing competition for resources and perhaps early conflicts over territorial control, which would intensify in the centuries to come. The late Preclassic thus established a landscape of burgeoning superpowers, with El Mirador as the undisputed giant, orchestrating a sophisticated network of interaction and influence that fundamentally shaped the trajectory of Maya civilization. The construction of immense late pre-classic cities, with their colossal temples and intricate urban networks, fundamentally relied upon an equally sophisticated economic engine. Sustaining hundreds of thousands required more than rudimentary farming. It necessitated an intensification of agricultural practices. Far from merely practicing swidden agriculture, the late pre-classic Maya engineered their environment with remarkable ingenuity. Archaeological surveys reveal widespread evidence of intensive farming techniques. Raised fields, akin to chinampas, efficiently utilized wetlands in areas like Poltrauser Swamp, Belize, providing continuous yields. On hillsides, extensive terracing mitigated erosion and expanded arable land. Intricate irrigation canals, observed at sites such as Cerros, demonstrate advanced water management. This multi-pronged approach, combined with the cultivation of diverse crops maize, beans, squash, chili peppers, and cotton generated the necessary food surpluses to feed a rapidly growing, urbanizing population and free up a vast labor force for monumental construction, hunting, fishing, and gathering, along with deliberate forest management, further diversified subsistence strategies, building a resilient food system. This agricultural prowess was intrinsically linked to a complex trade network, serving as a crucial economic artery. Different regions specialized in specific coveted resources. The Guatemalan highlands provided obsidian for tools and weapons, as well as jade and pyrite, materials imbued with profound spiritual and political significance. Coastal areas offered salt and marine shells, while the lowlands produced cacao, cotton, exotic feathers, and jaguar pelts. Long-distance trade routes, often following natural waterways or connecting through vast causeway systems, linked these specialized zones. Major hubs like Caminaljuyu controlled obsidian routes, while Cerros integrated maritime trade into the lowland network. Material analysis, such as obsidian sourcing, confirms the vast reach of these exchanges, with artifacts found hundreds of kilometers from their geological origin. The ability to control access to these exotic, high-status goods and to mobilize the labor for their transport was a significant source of power. This accumulation of wealth and resources, through both intensive agricultural production and shrewd trade management, directly supported the ruling Ajah and the priestly class, underpinning the late pre-classic Maya's ability to construct their magnificent cities and forge their enduring political and social structures. The zenith of late pre-classic Maya civilization, while awe-inspiring, paradoxically contained the seeds of its own profound transformation. By the first centuries of the Common Era, the very success that propelled centers like El Mirador to unprecedented heights exposed their underlying fragilities, initiating a complex period of decline and reorganization, rather than a sudden, universal collapse. Archaeological evidence points to significant environmental degradation. Immense population densities and intensive agricultural practices led to widespread deforestation and severe soil erosion. Studies of ancient pollen cores reveal vast tracts cleared for fields and for the massive quantities of wood needed to fuel lime kilns, producing the plaster for monumental structures. This exploitation inevitably strained the land's capacity. Compounding this were broader climatic shifts. Paleoclimate data suggest periods of increased drought or fluctuating rainfall between 150 and 250 CE, further exacerbating agricultural instability and jeopardizing food security. As resources became scarcer, competition intensified. The appearance of defensive features at major sites like Beacon and even sections of El Mirador signals a growing climate of interpolity conflict, indicating a fracturing of cooperative networks. Internally, the prodigious demands for labor to construct and maintain cities, alongside the burden of feeding an ever-growing populace, could have fostered strife and challenges to the Aja's authority. Shifts in long-distance trade routes or ideological focus might also have diminished the older Preclassic capitals. The cumulative effect of these pressures became manifest in the gradual decline of many dominant late Preclassic centers. By approximately 150 to 250 CE, sites like El Mirador, Nakbe, and Sival experienced a significant reduction in monumental construction and a dramatic decrease in population. This period, often termed the Preclassic hiatus, was not an extinction event, but a regional process of abandonment and contraction, a pivotal transition that redefined the political and demographic landscape. While the grand urban centers of the Mirador Basin waned, new nodes of power simultaneously emerged. Sites like Tikal and Uaxactun, further south in the Petén, began to demonstrate nascent growth and increasing influence, poised to inherit the mantle of Maya leadership and set the stage for the early Classic period. This was a complex, multifaceted metamorphosis of the Maya world, where core cultural tenets, sophisticated writing, intricate calendrical systems, profound cosmological beliefs, and ingenious agricultural techniques endured, adapted, and continued their evolutionary trajectory, providing the essential foundations upon which the Classic period would flourish. The late Preclassic, despite its often overlooked position, stands as the indispensable crucible where the defining characteristics of classic Maya civilization were forged. It was here, between 400 BCE and 250 CE, that the complex machinery of divine kingship, intricate Maya cosmology, and sophisticated iconography coalesced into a potent state ideology. The architectural blueprints for the Classic period triadic complexes, astronomically aligned E-groups, and expansive urban ceremonial centers were fully realized during this era, providing direct prototypes for later monumental forms. Mastery of stucco, sophisticated masonry, precise calendrical calculations, including the long count, the Maya writing system, intensive agricultural strategies, and extensive trade networks were all firmly established. The Preclassic hiatus was not a termination, but a dynamic regional reorganization, revealing a continuous and evolving trajectory of indigenous development. This first golden age, with its monumental ambition and profound intellectual depth, challenges any simplistic narrative of civilization's origins. It urges us to recognize the late Preclassic Maya not merely as precursors, but as a civilization of immense, independent achievement whose enduring echoes resonate throughout the subsequent splendor of the Classic period, making it fundamentally important to the grand tapestry of human history. For more deep dives into the foundational eras of ancient civilizations, subscribe to our channel.